First of all, thank you very much for being here. My question to any or all of you is about what steps do you take to ensure your own safety? Because a lot of times there's, as you mentioned, a lot of violence that is perpetrated in this community. So I'm wondering if there are steps that you take regarding your own safety and security, and if not, what would actually help towards that?
I'd say to teach yourself self-defense, to be able to defend yourself physically if anyone attacks you, to have someone always know where you are, where you're going, someone you trust, so in case you go missing they would notice, and it won't be too late for anyone to notice. And basically, even if someone starts to stand up against you, don't let them walk all over you. Stand up for your right, because if they hold the voice of wrong and we don't stand up for the voice of right, then we have lost the fight already for everything that is going on. Well, I hope you guys heard me then.
I can ask this.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So my question to you on a policy making level, what can be done to make immigrant artists who are living in Europe and in Sweden specifically give the most that they can give? I mean, we have so much to do, but what things do you think that we should start with? What are the next steps to make things, to normalize everything, all the values that we are talking about? Thank you.
Yeah. So for me, I think in Sweden it's really hard, especially like for immigrants. For example, once one of my friends, she's a really famous artist. She was talking to a gallerist, which is also big in Lund. And she was like, I have this young artist, I think you should check his work. And before she continued talking to him, he was like, no, we don't do charity here. So right now, people reached a phase in Sweden that they don't give space to immigrants or new artists because they think they're used to do this because of empathy or like charity. So right now, like, it's really hard for establishing artists, immigrants, queer and everything, to establish themselves here because there's no platforms. And even though if there's, you have to be so like knowledge, you have to know a lot of contacts, you have to know a lot of people to reach these places. For me, like, I struggle a lot. If I don't know, or I know a language, or I know people, I wouldn't be able to do my exhibitions. I wouldn't be able to be where I am right now. So for other people, I think it's really hard, it's really challenging. So I guess Sweden, especially, like, they need to be more like helping people to be in the art because there's no special organizations or companies or funds to help establishing artists. People who come here to this country with no language or no background or no connections.
Thank you.
Hi. I'm an architect and urbanist. So I would like to ask a question from any of you related to, I do research about public space and mostly marginalized communities, and in case of Malmö, migrants, if we can really define that. I would like to hear your reflections about, like, how do you, I mean, in terms of visibility and invisibility, in terms of, like, reappropriating your personal spaces in the city, how do you think public space in more general terms can have a role in that? And how do you think that we can create, related to your experience, moving from another place to new place, in case of Sweden, how these relations, these new identities, this new process of homemaking that we are facing, how is related to public space, and what kind of challenges you are facing mostly? I can be a bit maybe more detailed. We know that, for example, there are places that we might not feel included, even though it's a public space. For different reasons, we feel excluded because of different reasons, gender-wise, race-wise. Have you experienced anything like that, or have you heard any stories like that, or what do you think that, what the role of the public urban areas can be in making us more visible or invisible? How segregated is our public space?
In Sweden, especially like in Malmö, because I live in Malmö, the art scene and the art galleries, it's mostly for rich people. Like the people who exhibit in galleries are like mostly like people who are like have money, or people who are like funded by other like rich people. So I don't know any artist who like struggling like me, who's like living by selling art or something, be able to exhibit in galleries or any other spaces. It's mostly like rich people, people who are like have companies, people who like travel the world. And I never knew, or I know an artist or like me, established by himself, for himself, like painting at his like apartment, making it its own. Like everyone has his own gallery, his own place. People live differently than in studios. So I think that the community here is like, especially like Swedish community, is like the way they see art. Art here is like luxury. It's not like exploring new artists or like tasting new art. It's like most like, oh, I bought this painting from this artist. Who did that painting? In, you know, like in New York. So it's a really struggle because you feel like there's segregation, not just like through community, through like trying to establish yourself as an immigrant, also as being an artist or writer or filmmaking. Also, like filmmaking is like, it's really hard. Like we don't see a lot of like immigrants or like colored people in films or anywhere. It's most like white people. Like even movies that talks about immigrants, it's like white actors. So there's a lot of segregation. Like my best friend, like they make movies, and like Salma also, she makes movies. Like it's really hard for us, both of us, to be in the community of art making, filmmaking, or finding a space for ourselves. We have to struggle. We get a lot of rejection. Like as I told you, for one time, like there's like gallerist said, like we don't do charities just because they heard like a senior artist. He didn't even see my portfolio. So I think the idea here is like how people understand art and how people understand migrants, because people don't know migrants are like educated